What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the podcast. Hello, how are you today? A very special guest this week. We have Jason Allen. Jason is a comedian from London, Ontario, Canada. He performs out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada now. He travels the world as a comedian, and he has a new special coming out April 1st on Spotify and all platforms available for you guys to check out. He's a great dude. He is a recovering addict who is now doing comedy, and he is crushing it. We were just talking about how he's got a trip to go do stuff in Alberta, in the UK, and all these amazing things. And he started doing comedy later in life, around 26, and now he's been doing it for 9 years, and he's just doing the damn thing. He's so cool. He's such a nice dude, and I really appreciate him giving me the time of the day to have him on the podcast. So let's get to it. Let's get to the conversation with Mr. Jason Allen. Are you outside right now? You have like a heavenly glow around your head. Are you an angel?
It's the lighting in my office is just weird.
Are you God? Are you Jesus? Oh, I know that.
We did it. Jesus came back and he did a podcast.
Yeah, and tell really dirty jokes.
That's right. Oh my God.
What's up, brother? How are things?
I'm good, man. I'm real good. How you doing?
Good, man. Just trying to do the comedy thing, trying to work, trying to get by.
Yeah, I hear ya.
But
How long you doing?
Go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead.
I'll ask how long you've been doing this.
I started this last year, just as the first, or second, or third wave was in. I don't know. When one of the waves.
Yeah.
So I think I started this in May of last year, actually. So almost a year coming up now, which is insane to think. I've talked to so many cool people. So, but it's one of my favorite things to do is talking to interesting folks from all the various backgrounds. Like I've had acupuncturists on, chiropractors, wrestlers, comedians, DJs, rappers. It's insane.
Nice. I know you're like teaching the wrestling. Is there like a big independent circuit in London now, or?
There is not, but I know in Hamilton there is for sure.
It is, yeah. I've seen like I don't follow it really, but I've seen like posters around town for like.
Have you ever been to a show?
Independent wrestling events? Yes, absolutely. And like the WWF when I was a kid and stuff like that. I've been to like Cops Coliseum in Hamilton and watched an event, and yeah, it's pretty exciting.
For people that don't know, can you maybe describe the difference between a WWE event and an independent event? Because I mean, to me, I think you get more value for your ticket if you go to like one of these indie shows.
Oh yeah, like I was way closer. Also, at the indie show that I went to, there was wrestlers that used to be in the WWE that are just like a bit older now. Like I saw the Bushwhackers and Hacksaw Jim Duggan like at an independent show. So it's like, yeah. So you'll see like bigger names. So it's like you have the potential of seeing bigger names still. Yeah, I'd say it's a way more intimate experience. Kind of like a comedy show. If you go to a club, you're actually way more connected to the comic than if you go to like an arena to see like a Jerry Seinfeld or something like that, right? So.
And I mean, I think that's a perfect segue into the fact that you fucking have a comedy special coming out April 1st, man. Fucking congratulations. That's so fucking badass.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be my second album. My first full-length album. I did an EP before. It's been a half an hour. And this is a full headlining set. And I'm really excited about it. So
take me through so how long have you been doing comedy? Because you started off you started later in life, right?
A little later, like I was 27 when I started. So yeah, not a young man by any means. But I've been at it 9 years now. I'm 36 now. I just hit the 9-year mark.
So let me ask you this though, because I when talking to other artists, I'm always trying to figure out how they found their worth or how they found when they knew they reached that next step. So like you you started when you were 26, and then you did your EP, you did all the indie circuit, you did the EP, and now you got this hour-long special. Like, what was your path like to get to this point?
Like just in like building the material and stuff.
Yeah, because I mean, how do you know you're ready to do 60 minutes, right? Because like I have this idea about Canadian comedy where it's like you always have to wait to be told that you're ready, right? Were you told that you're ready to do it, or were you like, oh fuck it, I think I'm ready, and or did you do it independently?
Yeah, no, I kind of like the first one I did through Comedy Records. They didn't record it for me. Like I sent it to them and then they liked it and they kind of like they put their name on it and it got put out there through their platform. But with this one, I just felt like I've been doing that act for a bit. I was kind of getting sick of it anyways, because like I was doing it and then there'd be like lockdowns and then reopenings and like I'd be doing it for like rooms that are like half full or like social distance or whatever. And I was like, even in these rooms, it's working. So when we get the full capacity again, I just want to record it and then be done with it. You know what I mean? So, but I guess I knew I was ready because it's just like it'd been working so consistently. And also I knew I was ready to record it because I was getting tired of it. So I was ready to like put it out there for other people and then like leave it behind and start working on another act.
And so like I know you've been doing like you're from London, but you primarily work in Hamilton with comedy. I know you've done some stuff in the States. So was the material that you're doing here in Canada like the same material you're doing in the States, and was it working across the border as well?
A lot of it can stay the same. Like there might be a few differences, and I'm lucky because I have some friends in the States, and then also my older sister lives in the States. So like I'll call her sometimes and be like, do Americans know who the sheepdogs are? And she's like the animal. I'm like, no, forget it. And then I know not to do, like I would joke about the sheepdogs and I know not to do it over there. Or I'm like, do you know what a SIN number is? She's like that card you put in your phone. I'm like, no, like a social insurance number. She goes, no, we call it a social security number. I'm like, so it's like small little references that you might have to change for what I do anyways. But yeah, it's simple stuff like that for me. Like I'd say generally my stuff is like me talking about my life or like being married or being like an adult who is like kind of a man child. So I feel like people can like relate to that no matter where I go throughout North America. So
Yeah, because like no one wants to really grow up, right? And some people are forced to.
People don't really want to grow up.
I think that's the beauty about being part of the comedy community is you don't really ever have to truly grow up because you want to, keep that kind of ridiculousness inside of you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think people can relate to that and they like that.
So you started when you were 26, and I read the bio where like you were encouraged by fellow members in your AA team to do comedy. Is that correct?
Yeah, like 12-step programs, like AA and NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous.
So like you were making people laugh in these very serious rooms just with your storytelling. Is that
like it's not always as serious as you think. Like obviously like meetings should be taken seriously and you don't always need to goof around, but there's definitely like times like people share and they're just sharing and they say something that people can relate to and people will laugh sometimes and nobody gets like in trouble for that or like for lack of a better term, like it's not always this like dark depressing thing. Sometimes like there are just stories you can share about like coming through stuff and people laugh and can laugh now because they're on the other side of their addiction and they're like working on it now, right? So I wouldn't say it's always like super serious or super intense. Like some of the funniest or like kindest people I've ever met are like in those rooms. So
is it always like, I mean, I don't want to, well, I do want to get into it a little bit, but like, I mean, when did you know that you had to go to those meetings?
Yeah, pretty early on. Like I guess like I had a pretty serious overdose and that was kind of like the first sign. I think I was like 20 when I first OD'd and kind of like was like kind of encouraged by family to look into rehab, and kind of like that initially got me into that world, because you have to go through like a detox center before you go to rehab. And in the detox center, there was like a mandatory 12-step meetings. So I kind of met people at those meetings. And then even when I left rehab, I would go to meetings, and you kind of like, that's how you make those connections, right? So I guess that's kind of what got me into that world.
This might sound like a very offensive question, but you're the first person I know who's not. But like, what is an OD like? Because you see it all the time on like TV films and stuff. But like, I don't know if they ever truly capture it, but like, I'd be interested to see if like you've ever seen it captured correctly on film or anything.
I guess it varies from like drug to drug or person to person, I assume, but like a lot of it is like stuff that like me acting very strangely and not remembering. I happen to be with other people who realized I was going through something, and instead of just like being paranoid or like leaving me somewhere, they actually they did something, and they called an ambulance and like stuff like that, right? So I don't remember too much. It was more just like people telling me after, like, oh, you were acting this way, or like being
It's like a
weird.
game of Clue. You're trying to put the pieces together, sort of thing.
It's kind of like, yeah, I
Where in the
guess you
world
could
is Jason's
say,
mind?
yeah, kind of like a blackout, right? Like if you ever blacked out drunk, and then you find out like, oh yeah, well, we were here getting pizza, but then you threw a slice at me and you ran down this, and you don't remember any of it, and people are telling you, and you're kind of putting it together. That's kind of like what the overdose was like for me anyways.
So like, were you always a fan of comedy before you got into comedy, and like being in and having that kind of like positive reinforcement that helped you to get into it? Like, kind of
for sure,
take me along that history.
that was just it. It was just like, I just like, even when I was young, I always liked comedy, or like watched it on TV, or like would watch like the Just for Laughs clips, or like I always loved, Seinfeld, or even late night shows when they do the monologue and stuff like that. I always loved stuff like that when I was younger. So I was always a big fan of stand up. I had some struggle throughout my life where like I didn't get into it when I was younger, because obviously I was dealing with other stuff through addiction and things like that. So
Like,
yeah,
it
once I
perfect for like the '60s or '70s or '80s comedy scene, but maybe
Pardon?
you would have been perfect for like the '80s comedy.
Yeah. Maybe in the 80s it would have been better, but yeah, we don't tolerate that anymore, really. So like that kind of partying behavior or whatever. But no. So it was just like, I think comedy's like, it can be tough, not in the sense of like it's way better than having a regular day job, but it can be tough in the sense that like you do have to put a lot of your time and energy into it. So I'm very fortunate to be in a place now where I just like have time and energy, and I'm not putting that poison in my body, and it's like something I can actually focus on, you know what I mean? So it was good for me to find recovery before I started like toying with the idea of trying stand up myself.
Do you do you think that like your sobriety has helped you? Because I think it's like you always hear these stories like of like comedians when they like before and after they were sober, and like sometimes they're not as funny or sometimes they're funnier. Are you kind of glad you didn't get to kind of have to have those two parallels?
Yeah, I'm glad personally. I've seen a lot of comics, and I don't know, for me personally, like, I've seen a lot of comics, they party like a rock star kind of before they got the success, you know what I mean? And then it hurts them and ends up holding them back. So no, I'm really happy that like I was able to focus on like I got that out of the way early on in my life, and now I can just focus on like the actual craft and pumping out new work and stuff like that. As far as famous comedians getting sober and maybe they're not as funny anymore, I don't know if that's so much about they're not doing drugs and alcohol anymore. I think that if you live like a rich pampered lifestyle, you can kind of lose your edge as to what's funny and what's relatable. Lucky for me, I don't have that problem. I am not.
Yeah, don't jinx us. Maybe yet. And so, like, I mean, I've met you a few times. We've had you come to Fork River. You're in London, or you're from London. Like, did you start comedy in London, or did you go to Hamilton or there? Okay, so like,
I started in London.
Was moving to London like a decision you made because you need to be closer to GTA, closer to that where comedy really is?
It was just like, I love the city of London. And honestly, I would have stayed in London if it was closer to stuff, but it's just so far away. Like, and then like London's like in between, like Windsor and Toronto are the other two like kind of major cities around London. And Windsor did have like a pretty good comedy scene for a bit when I started in London. So I traveled there. I traveled to Toronto sometimes and do the rooms I could in London. And even now, like, Windsor's lost their comedy club. There's not much there. London's lost their comedy club recently, or is losing Yuck Yucks at the end of this month. So, yeah, for me, it kind of made sense just to like live in Hamilton. You're close to Niagara, Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, Toronto, the Buffalo, like, you know, the New York border's right there. It's pretty easy to travel, and you have to travel a lot for comedy. So I always love coming back to London and still performing though. So
yeah, your release party is what, next week, Thursday?
Yeah, April 21st.
Okay, so Alan comes and then
I'm on the road for a bit. It would have been sooner, but I'm literally like, I leave for Ottawa on Tuesday. I'm gone for about a week. I come home. I'm home for a day, and then I fly out to Calgary, Alberta. I'm in Alberta and BC on a little run for like 2 weeks straight. So,
dude, that's incredible. That's so cool to see you being able to like get the success and travel for it. I mean,
for sure.
The road experience, the road stories you're gonna get from it, it's gonna be incredible. I can't wait for you.
Yeah, it's super fun to be able to do that. And I was telling somebody the other day, it's cool in comedy because it's like I have like friends all over North America now. Like I just like have these people that I can just connect with in city to city, province to province, or even like sometimes even in the States and stuff. I have friends in like Detroit and Oregon and like Idaho and like just like all these different places, even in the States now too. But yeah, I would have loved to have done the party a little sooner, but at the same time, this gives me a bit more time to promote it and kind of like get people out to check out my stuff.
So let's talk about like early beginnings. I mean, you're a recovering addict, you're getting into comedy, and you're probably talking about that as a form of therapy on stage. I have to imagine in London, particularly, knowing the scene, some of the material that you might have come up with was like, oh, should we laugh? Is it okay to laugh?
Right. Yeah, that always happens with like anytime you're talking about something a bit more difficult, right? Even if it does pertain to you, people can be like a little worried sometimes. I find you just keep working on it, tweaking it, or sometimes you start with other jokes so they're kind of more comfortable with you. You know, like sometimes guys will just like or comics in general will just come up and they'll do like a huge overshare off the top, but it's like this is the audience's first introduction to you. You can't just jump. It's not always like you'd be freaked out if I came up to you, we'd never met before. And I was like, hi, I'm a recovering drug addict. You'd be like, what the fuck? I'm just meeting you. Like, this is a weird approach. And then comics will do that on stage sometimes and be like shocked that the audience wasn't immediately on board. Where I'm like, hey, maybe let's keep it light for a couple minutes. Like if you're doing a longer set, you can
pretend it's a date, guys. Pretend you want them to like you at first, okay?
Yes, exactly. You kind of like you're winning them over a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So,
and so like when you first started performing, like what was that transition into becoming the comedian you are now? Because like people always think that they're funny and then they go up on stage, or they have a chance to go up on stage and they eat shit and they never want to do it again. So like being that mindset and being a recovering addict, like, I mean, like were you like, I have to do this, I have to push forward, or were you just kind of like, no, this is fun for me right now?
Um, like luckily for me, I don't know, like actually luckily is even the right word, but I was really like
Talented, great to begin with. Fuck you, man.
really nervous. I was kind of like really nervous. So I wrote for a long time before I even hit a stage. And I would literally like, I worked at a detox center in London, and I would literally test my like little jokes out on people that were at the detox center. And I was like, if I can make these guys laugh who are like withdrawing off like drugs and alcohol, then I should be able to make complete strangers laugh that are out to have a good time, right? So I've been working on these jokes for a while, and I wanted to work on them for a full year before I even hit a stage. I was telling my friend some of my jokes, my buddy Luke, and he kind of went behind my back and signed me up for this show, and then messaged me and was like, look, man, don't kill me, but I signed you up for this show. He's like, you got it. You're really funny. You'll be able to do it. So then I was like, oh, fuck, Luke, man, why are you doing this to me? But at the same time, I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do it. And I was preparing for this set, which they were going to give me way too much time too. It was like my first set. It was this guy, Andy Pomeransky, who was still around, on and off anyways, but he was going to give me like 10 to 12 minutes, which would have
Jesus
been
Christ. For a first time.
for me. It was at this bar show called Fatty Patty's. Luckily for me, the show ended up getting canceled, but Andy was like, look, there's this amateur contest at the Roxbury, through these guys. They call themselves the Offenders of Comedy. They were like a collective of 4 comics who ran this show there. And he's like, it's like an amateur contest. You throw in $2. You can enter the contest. If you win, you get all the comics' money who pitched in, and the bar matches that cash. And luckily, those sets were only 5 minutes long. And I went up. It was my first time. I got called up first, and I ended up winning first place in the contest. So the first time I ever did stand up, I won like $70 and got like a T-shirt, and they gave me like this plastic tiara. They made like this big like thing about it every month, for whoever won the contest, or every week or whatever it was. And when guys saw me win that contest in the scene, it kind of opened up doors to more shows, and it just kind of started rolling from there.
And like, it's just been a constant evolution, performing. Like, take me back to like the first time you got to do a Yuck Yuck stage. Like what was like the best? Like, you're doing momentum, you're doing all these shows. Like, take me to that moment where like, someone's like, hey, do you want to do Yuck Yucks, or do you want to do something like that big? Like, oh shit, this is actually maybe something I can do. Like that big confidence boost.
Right. My first club was actually like I had done maybe some Yuck Yucks amateur nights in the London club and stuff like that. My first like regular comedy club that I started working for was this club called Showtime. And I came in there, and there was like they were new. It was this guy, David Green, who was helped booking the amateur night, who I knew.
Yeah, David's great. He's super nice.
Awesome. And I knew him from doing bar shows and stuff. And I remember he reached out to me. He's like, look, they're doing this amateur contest. If you win, you could get guest spots on the weekend and stuff like that. And I went and I did the contest, and I had like a good set. I felt good about it. And then I was talking to the owners, Matt and Mark, who were there. And I was like, I'd love to come back if you have me, because they were like, oh, yeah, we liked your set, good stuff. And I'm like, I definitely love to come and do a guest spot. And they're like, yeah, for sure. And then I ended up winning the night anyway. So they're like, well, we definitely owe you that guest spot. Come back, let us know when you can come back. And I did a guest spot over that weekend, and it went really well. And then they were like, do you have 15 to 20 minutes? And luckily I did, because I had just been in London or like other rooms for so long, or kind of like in the bar show circuit before I ever hit a club. So by the time I did hit a club, I already had like a little bit of a chunk of time. And then I started middling at Showtime. in St. Catharines, and then that like opened up doors to other clubs eventually, and it's gotten my foot into some other places. I've done some work with Yuck Yucks, but I've never been like officially signed roster comic with Yuck Yucks, which is fine by me because I've built so many relationships with independent clubs at this point. It's not something I really feel like I need to do. So, but people just have different paths that way too, right? Some guys, they're new, they get in. Mark Breslin of Yuck Yucks really likes them. They start working for him right away, and that's how they kind of build their career. I had a bit of a different path, but I've definitely worked some of Mark's clubs, and they're very nice and it's very cool. To do any club, really.
Yeah.
But my path was always a bit more of the independent circuit.
I think that's probably, in my opinion, probably one of the coolest things to do is do that independent route, because you get to see a lot more and a lot more, I want to say more dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, dangerous in the sense that, you know, you're not gonna have the same crowd over and over, different environments, that sort of thing. And fun, David Green was the first guy that I ever did a show with. Like, he was doing an amateur night in St. Catharines, and my buddy was like, "Hey, do you want to do 5 minutes?" I'm like, "Sure." And I was I was drunk, and I was like, "Sure." And I actually did pretty well. And I was like, "Oh, this actually kind of sounds cool."
Awesome.
Yeah. So Dave, thank you. You're a gem of a man.
Oh yeah, no, he's helped us both. He's a good guy for sure.
Now, so like you got this special coming out. Like, how much work was that to kind of like, when did you know you wanted to do it? How much work came into it? Like, were you nervous at all? Were you like what you said before, like, I just want to get it out so I could start on new stuff, sort of thing?
A part of it is just like I'm just happy to be done with it. Because this last 2 years, as like you know and everybody knows, has been very frustrating with like are we open, are we closed, are we like just like in the uncertainty of everything. So I'm happy that this just to feel like I'm accomplishing something again, or like I have accomplished something again, is just a great feeling. As far as like, I've never really sat down and been like, now I am going to write an album. You know what I mean? I just make it a priority to always be working on jokes and always be trying to do better. And then an album just kind of like forms over time. And that's the approach I have it. I don't think I'd ever sit down and be like, by October of 2023, you better have a new album ready to go out. Like, I don't think about stuff like that or set deadlines for myself. I'm just gonna make a point of continuing to write every day and hit rooms and do mics and do everything I have to do to always be bettering myself as a comic. And I'm sure the album will just form over time.
That's just how I think about it. Do you have a pre-game ritual or a post-game ritual for a good, bad, or a good, bad set sort of thing?
If I have a bad set, the ritual is always to just leave as soon as I can. That's a ritual. I just want to get out of there. A good set, you know, like, it's nice to hang around. You talk, you feel good. There's a way to act, you know what I mean? Like, you have to act like you've been there before. There needs to be some kind of like, you know, some class to your kill or whatever else I would say. I remember like pro comics saying that to me. Not that I've ever been like a guy that's like jumping up and down, high-fiving people if I had a good set. I'm just saying that it's just like, I've seen guys that act like almost like a little immature or a little too like arrogant after having a good set. I think the best thing to do is just like, instead of going around telling everybody you killed it, just know that like killing it is supposed to be your job. That's what you're supposed to be doing every night anyway. So I don't see the point in bragging about it or making a big celebration of it. Like, I'm happy when things go well, of course, but at the same time, I don't act like I've blown my own mind. That's the job. You're supposed to make people laugh.
Now, have you ever had a moment where like I'm not saying you have, but I'm saying that I know sometimes, you know, you're not always in the right mood to perform, but you have to perform.
Yeah,
How do you
yeah.
overcome that sort of roadblock if you have that?
Um, for me, I find a lot of it is just like I can turn it on. I don't know what it is, if it's stage strength or energy or what, but if I'm in front of people, I can kind of turn it on. Which is good, I think. Like I think that like if you're excited about comedy, you'll kind of get that stage strength from like seeing people looking back at you and stuff like that, and be ready to kind of like put on a show the way you're supposed to. And again, like, you know, comedy's like it's my career at this point, and it's an awesome career, but it's still a job sometimes, right? I can't be like, you know what I mean? It's a very fun job and I love it, but it's like, you know, you show up to work at a regular job sometimes and maybe you don't feel up to it, but you still do it and you still do the right things, and you're still not an asshole to your boss when you see him in the morning, or like whatever else. Or like depending on what kind of relationship you have, I guess. But I'm just saying, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like I'm there to work. If it's a small turnout, it's not, you know, I still have to act professional. I shouldn't take that out on audience members that are there. I need to come with as much energy as I can. If you're a little tired, give yourself some time and grab a coffee before the show, figure it out, get into it, you know what I mean? So that you have a show to put on. So
And so, being that you are a professional and like you don't have to worry about a 9 to 5 job going on, like how fun is that?
it's fun, but at the same time, it's a lot of sitting around too. Sometimes I think it's nice when I travel, you know what I mean? It's nice that like I'll be able to travel and I don't have to like beg my boss, like, oh, well, can I have a couple weeks off so I can go on this run to Alberta? I just get to go. And as long as I can, like, you know, and I explained it to my wife, and she's like, no, of course, thanks for letting me know, and go have fun and be safe, and, you know, come back, you know what I mean, with money. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And then I hit the road, right? So, but no, there are times too where I'm like, I want to like message a buddy and be like, what are you up to? And he's like, I'm at work. And I'm like, oh yeah, not everybody is like me. So a lot of it is just like me like sitting around
Dude,
and just and waiting for like shows to start at night so I can socialize with people.
that was probably like the worst part about working on cruise ships for like 8 years is like I'd come home like, hey man, what's going on? Do you want to do something tonight? He's like, dude, it's Thursday. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have to do anything.
Yeah, but I'm off and I'm bored. Yeah.
Please play
So
with me. I
true.
want to do something.
Please play with. That's it. That's exactly it. That's so funny.
Now I know that I've seen some of your Instagram stuff, or maybe it was Facebook, but like you've gotten into like powerlifting, correct? Like you're like those.
Yeah,
I like how
working
you're
out,
showing off the
you know?
guns right now because you're looking yoked as fuck, bro. So like,
So,
has that helped you with your
you
comp?
add 10 pounds just to your arms, I heard. So
Sorry.
a Zoom adds 10 pounds just to your arms, I heard. So
Yeah.
well, we could do this.
Sweater off.
There you go.
So has working out helped you with your comedy in terms of keeping a focused mind, keeping like clean, not clean body, but like being, if you're more in shape, you're more inclined to think clearly, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would say that like, yeah, I just have more energy. I'm getting better sleep at night. I also quit smoking over the pandemic. So like I feel like I'm speaking more clearly on stage. I'm catching more of the show because I don't feel like inclined to have to run outside and have a smoke or like whatever else. So I would say in some ways, sure, that that like working out or just being in shape is just going to help you in your overall life, right? So again, like I just feel like I have more energy now and I'm in a good state of mind. So yeah, I'd say it did help.
And when did you start working out? Like, is this just like been a new
It was
thing?
it was a pandemic thing. Like I literally, that was another huge thing about the working out was that I literally did it to save myself from having a mental breakdown because I love being busy, and these last 2 years have been really hard on me for that. I love being busy. I love socializing, and to have those things kind of taken away, especially like when I felt like my career was starting to like get some momentum. I was very lucky to have a good friend who's also in comedy, Doug Coning, who happened to be into weightlifting, and I kind of jumped on board with him and started doing that. And it helped me out so much.
Do you have a personal deadlift goal that you've hit or anything like that? Like what's your max there?
It always goes up, right? Because it was like I was like, oh, I'd love to do 4 plates, and that's like twice my body weight, right? Like 405 pounds. I'm like, that would be awesome. And then you do that, and then you're like, well, now I want to hit 5 plates, or I want to be able to deadlift 500 pounds, or I want to be able, you know what I mean? So you say like, I'll be happy once I get this, and then you get that, and then you're like, no, you know what? I'd be happy if I got this other thing actually. So it always changes.
Have you
Again,
have,
kind of.
have you noticed the wife staring at you a little bit differently since your body has changed? She's like, why were you not in this shape when you first started? What is going
Yeah,
on?
yeah. No, she's very honest about like, yeah, it's like you really find out like how people used to think about how you looked once you get in shape. Because now she's like, oh, you used to have the flattest ass, or you were so bony before and stuff like that. I'm like, you never would say that stuff to me when I looked like that. But now that I look completely different, now it's like it's all coming out, all that honesty, right? So
And it's not like it's meant to,
now I
it's
can't
supposed to
go
be like it's not, I mean, it's a compliment, but is it?
Is it? Yeah, that's the thing. That's funny. Yeah, that's how it is. It's like, okay, so you were grossed out by me before, or what's
You married me. So
in the scrawny body? So yeah, she could have been that grossed out, I guess.
I know my wife is like every time I start to lose weight or worry out more, she gets mad at me because like I'm losing weight and she's like not. It's unfortunate. Like I don't know. It's a weird thing to talk about on the Zoom,
Right, right.
but it's weird how people change. Like when you look one way and then you change your body, whether it be through not drinking it, and then it's like the different reactions, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's all it is. And different people's bodies just like change at different times too, right? So like my wife already went through like a major body change where she decided to lose some weight before our wedding because she just wanted to do that for herself. And she did. So she kind of went through that change. And now the pandemic has brought me through my change. You know what I mean? So she's getting smaller and I'm getting bigger. And I don't know. And we look more and more odd the more we stand beside each other.
You're one hot ass couple. We'll say that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah, we're trying to get there.
And so, like, I mean, with like, I'm married. I'm still new to the comedy scene. You're married, and you're doing the damn thing. How important is to have that supportive person in your life to say, hey, yeah, no, that's okay to go away for Alberta or some of that. Like, has she
Yeah.
been very supportive, or have there been moments of strife throughout the relationship with comedy?
In relationships, there's always going to be some times where it's like, you know, you want to spend time together, and sometimes like work gets in the way and life gets in the way. And just to say that there's never been arguments about how busy I've been would be untrue. But at the same time, it's like you kind of make those compromises as you go and figure out. And sometimes she's like, I'd come home and I'd complain about some mic that like has 0 people attending it, and like it always makes me mad after I've left it. And she's like, well, why are you leaving when you could be hanging with me to do this mic that makes you miserable anyways? And I'm like, okay, that's fair. There's certain ones that I could just not do to make time for you. And then also like she'll come on the road with me sometimes. Like she likes to travel. We went out to the East Coast together for like a month. We're going to the UK together in May for like 2 weeks, and I'm going to do some shows out there too. And then we're spending a week in like Alberta and BC, and we're going to run around in May too. So it's like, as much as sometimes I am gone from her and I miss her and I'll call her every night and like, will make it work. There are other times where she's definitely got to travel a lot more because of my career and got to like check out different parts of the country too, right? So it's like it's all a balance, really, I'd say.
So like you just said so many cool things all at once. Like, do you ever kind of just like knock on wood, or are you knocking on wood all the time? Because like you're very like this such seems like such a wonderful, fortunate life that you have right now.
It's very cool. It's definitely like it's something that I gotta remember because again, like sometimes I think you can get caught up in the moment of your career, like being hungry and be like, well, why don't I have this yet? Or why don't I have that? And I got to remember, like, no, I am actually doing a lot of cool shit and just like appreciate it. You know what I mean? And kind of like be in those moments. I'm just glad that like things are rolling again. And yeah, it is very cool to think that like, I travel the world sometimes now and I take my wife on vacation with me and we like, you know what I mean? It is very cool to like when you really think about that stuff and how much traveling I'm going to do in the next few months even. So no, it is important to like to remember that and kind of be grateful for like where I'm at now in my life for sure.
Yeah, man, you gotta stop and smell the roses every once in a while, you know.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta appreciate stuff.
And so, like, from your like, what do you say? What would you say is like probably the most difficult thing about being a comedian? Whether it be not so much the road, but I mean like doing the like find the bits that work sort of thing. Because like for me personally, like I'm still struggling to find out how to do that 5 minutes, right? Because you don't like with the open mics that we have in London. I don't want to be the guy that's saying the same joke over and over and over and over and over and over again,
Yeah.
right? So like, if you had to like pinpoint like like the hardest part about comedy, do you have anything like that?
I think, yeah, for sure. Sometimes fleshing out material can be really hard. Honestly, like part of it, even with just like grinding material and like knowing what's gonna work or adding stuff to your set, it's a lot of travel. It's a lot of like, because maybe I have like one new joke that I'm adding to something that's old, so it might not make sense to go to the same room that has the same regulars all the time and do a majority of a joke they've already heard a bunch of times just for the new tags. So I find myself like always trying to find new, different rooms that are going to have audiences, and again, just trying to like get out. Even though gas is brutal right now, you have to make those sacrifices sometimes for the craft. And musicians have to buy music equipment, artists have to buy paints and canvases and stuff like that. So comedians, like, if the only thing you have to pay for is like pens, notebooks, and gas, then like you kind of got to suck it up and do that in order to like flush out the material and make it work. But that can be a tough thing sometimes for sure.
Now we talked about a little bit of bad. What's your favorite part of the comedy?
I'd say like, yeah, just like all the different people I've gotten to meet and the interactions I have, or I love it like if I do a joke about something and then after people are like, oh man, something like that happened to me, and they're kind of like relating and like building those relationships with people, stuff like that is always super cool. And also I feel good when people laugh. It makes me feel good. Whether like if somebody is like laughing and you see them genuinely enjoying themselves at like some of your thoughts and ideas, that I don't know, that leaves me with a really good feeling. I just like stuff like that.
When you were younger, were you always like trying to get people to laugh? Was that one of your go-to like
I was,
social interactions?
I was like a little bit silly. I wouldn't say like outrageous or over the top, like class clown or anything like that, but definitely like my group of friends, I always tried to crack my buddies up or like make my brother laugh and like that for sure.
And then now you just transitioned into a career.
Yeah. And now it's like, yeah, I remember getting in trouble sometimes for like making everything a joke, and now it's what I do for a living. So
I remember one time I got in trouble in public school for dancing with one of those mannequins where all the guts come out.
yeah. See, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, and I got in trouble, and I was like, I'm literally dancing with a mannequin. How is this a bad thing?
No, it's a fun thing, but yeah, you're in school and you're supposed to take it serious and all that like adult bullshit they throw at kids way too young, right? So that's
Is that part of the reason why like you think people are so gravitate, like we know comedians, yourself, myself, like gravitate toward comedy because like it is a business, but it's also a business that you can truly be yourself and have fun with.
yeah, I think for me for sure, because I always like had trouble conforming in school or even at work sometimes. So I definitely feel like for me the fact that like uh my comedy very much gives me creative control. Like I've never had a comedy club owner really go up to me and tell me much of like how I should be doing my act. Like sometimes you'll do a corporate gig and there might be like, hey, you gotta take it easy on the swearing or like not a bunch of sex stuff and you adjust or whatever else. But for the most part, I kind of have like, free reign over what I want to do creatively. And that is something that like I think is a huge benefit to me, especially since I was one of those kids who never wanted to conform to all the rules in school and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, 100% agree. Now I noticed that you got some tattoos on you. Um, when
Yeah.
when did you start getting inked up and stuff?
I think I got my first one when I was 18.
Yeah.
And and I'm just slowly been adding on. And
Yeah, I'm surprised they're not connecting. They're just like in those spots all around your arms and
it's very random. I like, it's just like a lot of flash art and stuff like that. But that's the kind of stuff I like. Eventually the plan is to fill the arms, but it will just be with a bunch of random stuff. More or less. I already have like a bunch of like pictures in my phone of stuff I want to get tattooed on me. It's just finding the time and putting aside that money. And like we get this trip coming out to the UK, so I might have to wait till after that too.
yeah.
So
Plus, I mean, like I imagine like being in Hamilton, you probably have like a specific artist that you go to. You don't
the
want to
guy
trust
that I
someone on the
go
road
to,
doing it.
no, I've gotten some tattoos on the road that turned out very good or whatever else, but there is a guy that I very much like right now in Hamilton. I'll probably just stick with him. Probably not going to come back with any tattoos from Alberta and things like that.
Oh, hey
So.
man, if you're in Dublin, why not? I mean, get a little Guinness or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Maybe not Guinness, but like a harp or something. Just
it's
commemorate
true.
the
Yeah,
trip with.
maybe just to commemorate the trip, maybe get one in in Dublin or because I am going to be in Dublin and also London. So yeah, maybe actually I'll talk to the wife about that.
Dude, Dublin's a beautiful city. You're gonna love it. It's so cool.
Yeah, I've heard. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for the trip.
Are you
So,
into comic books or anything like that?
am I into comic books? I used to
Yeah.
be a little more when I was younger, but I wouldn't say it's something.
Oh yeah, because I was gonna say there's this great comic book shop in Dublin I was gonna tell you about, but if you're not into it,
I would check it out just to check it out while we're there. You know what I mean?
I think you might be too busy doing it. But the one thing I have to say, if you're gonna be in Dublin, is you oh no, you're in Dublin, you're not in Northern Ireland. Shit. The Guinness Distillery, you have to check it out. It's very cool. If you're gonna be in Dublin,
Right. Yeah, I've heard.
that's a
I've heard
good tour. But if you're gonna be in
Yeah.
Belfast, like take the trip to Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. That's a beautiful, beautiful area.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to go to Scotland too, and I want to
Bro,
try to do
Edinburgh. Have you so like as a traveling comedian, as someone who has
that.
is that something that's on your radar, maybe doing an Edinburgh show?
I would totally do that. I think next year I'm going to try to go to Australia, though. I want to see about the Melbourne Comedy Festival. But yeah, no, Edinburgh would be super cool too. I mostly want to go to Scotland more for the lifting stuff. I want to do like the Highland Games and like the log pots and stuff like that. If they have anything like that available that you could just try out. But no, Edinburgh, I've only heard like amazing things, and it would be great to get into something like that, of course.
I think as someone who's new to the game, like I look at stuff like Edinburgh or like any sort of fringe festival, like even Toronto, like everyone, some people talk about Just for Laughs, but I'm like, I love the idea of like these big festivals with like so many different arts going on. It just sounds like such a great time.
I think stuff like that would be really cool to try.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool to lift or what is this Scotch? They do the thing with the big wood piece of wood. They float up.
Big log. Yeah. And they're gonna flip it. That's what I want to try.
Oh, you should come down to Kincardine and take part in the Scottish games there. One day.
I'm looking for it. Yeah.
Brother, congratulations so much on all your success. Your special comes out on April 1st on Spotify. Where are you on social media so if you want to get a hold of you?
Oh, yeah. You can find me at Jason A Comedy on Instagram and Twitter, and Jason Allen on Facebook, of course.
And the special comes out like midnight, April 1st, or?
Yeah, April 1st, all platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play.
And what's
Apple,
it called?
all that stuff. It's called Known Alias.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's behind the name?
It's like part of a joke that I do on the album, so you have to listen.
Nice little tease there for you. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, there you
All
go.
right, Jason, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate your time, and I will see you down the road.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation with Jason. Like I said, he's a cool dude. He's in the best shape of his life. I don't know if you're watching the video for him, but he is a good-looking man too. That thick beard and long, luscious hair. My goodness, the sky is the limit for him. His special comes out April 1st, available on Spotify and any and all other platforms that you can that have audio streaming services. Imagine Apple, iTunes, that sort of thing. But go check it out if you're a comedy fan. If you're a comedy fan, just go check it out. It's gonna be available. It's a free comedy album. Just do it. But until April 1st, come back here, listen to all the old episodes. We got some more great guests coming up for you guys in the future. But for now, I really want to harp on the idea about going to check out Jason's new album, April 1st, on Spotify and all other platforms. And next week, we'll have another great guest for you guys. Thanks a lot. Cheers.